So when we start talking about some special products, we are still multiplying polynomials, but the special products just mean that there are interesting things that happen. The first one is one that you probably recognize. It's called the FOIL, and remember I told you before in the multiplication one that FOIL is really nothing more than a mnemonic. It's a way to remember first, outer, inner, and last, just to make sure that you get all the products correctly done. And this only works for one specific situation, and that is a binomial times a binomial. And when we look at this, here's a binomial for us to take a look at. And the first one is the first. And when we multiply those two, this is our first, we get 10x squared. The next one says outer, so that's the outer one, so that's the 2x and the 3, and that of course 2x times 3 is 6x, so that's our outer. And then we do the inner, so that's the 7 and the 5. And hopefully you can see why they call that the inner. So that's our 35x, and then the last are the ones that are at the end of each of the binomials. So the 7 times 3, which of course is 21. And then the next thing that we do once we have done that is we look for anything that's the same. So combine like terms. So we end up with 10x squared plus 41x plus 21, and we're done. So now let's go ahead and look at this next one. So again, we do first 14x squared. I'll just write it out here so you remember. Outer 7x times 5. Inner 6x. And last 15. Combine like terms. And you're done. Now this one can be done a couple ways, but we're going to focus on FOIL right now. So the first thing you're going to do is rewrite it. So again, first 36x squared, outer 6x times 5, inner 5 times 6x, and last 5 times 5. Combine like terms. And you're done. And it doesn't matter how complicated these get. So let's go ahead and do this one first. 36 x to the 8th, outer, minus 54 x to the 7th, inner, negative 28 x to the 7th, and now we've got negative negative, so that's going to be positive 42 x to the 6th. Remember to go ahead and combine your like terms. And you're done. So my suggestion is to pause here again before I do this one. So go ahead and pause it if you want to. First, outer, inner, and last. Combine like terms. and you're done. So that's really FOIL. The next thing we want to do is talk about squaring binomials. And we just did one, and we've seen a couple different ways to do it, but I am going to talk to you about the shortcut. So of course what we need to remember, and this is vital, is that a plus b squared is not equal to a squared plus b squared. What happens is a plus b squared or a minus b squared, these work the same way. You end up with a term in the middle. So you've got to be really careful. Now if you use the FOIL method, which we did do one of these already, but I'm going to just do this really quick. So first is 16x squared, outer is 36x, inner is 36x, and last is 81. Combine like terms, and we're done. So that's fine, and if that's what you want to do, I have no problem with it whatsoever. I do want to show you the shortcut because it is handy. So let's go ahead and look at this, and I'm just going to speak it. I may not do all three of those. Let's just do two of that, or three of them rather. I don't want to do that last one. So we've got 5x plus 8. So the first step when you do these is to square the first term. So that's step one. Step two is to multiply the two terms. And then multiply that by 2. And then step 3 is to square the second term. So this should make more sense when I actually do it. Alright, so let's go back to this example. So we square the first term, it's 25x squared. We square the 2, or we multiply the 2 rather, so 5x times 8 is 40x, and then we multiply that, remember, times 2, so that makes it 80x, and then we square the last term, so that's 64. So square the first term, multiply the 2, times 2, so 6 times 7 is 42, times 2 is, and then square the last. One more time, square the first, multiply the 2, 15x times 2, 30x, square the last, and you're done. So it's a shortcut, but you do have to, because it's a shortcut, again, remember, as soon as you start talking shortcuts, you start talking about things that you have to memorize. So that is a choice. I do want to maybe do like this one real quick, because it doesn't matter how interesting it is. So again, we square the first term. So x squared, y squared. Doesn't matter that it's a variable there. And then we multiply the 2, so that's 3xy times 2 is 6xy. And then we square the last, plus 9. So it always works. It doesn't matter what the terms look like. Now the last one that we're going to talk about on this video is multiplying a sum and difference. And a sum and difference means it's exactly the same numbers in both positions, first and second position, but the sign is different. There's a plus in one and a minus in the other. So we can FOIL it, and I'm going to go ahead and do this first one with a FOIL. So 7x times 7x, the first is 49x squared, and then we do outer, which is 14x, and then we do inner, which is negative 14x, and then we do last, which is negative 4. And when we combine like terms, we see positive 14x and negative 14x. That's 0, so that's gone. And we're left with 49x squared minus 4. Now, when we start talking about the shortcut is really simple. The first thing you do is square the first, then you keep the negative, and then you square the second term. And that's really all there is to it. Again, you do have to do a little bit of memory work here, but this is super nice and really easy. So here I see that I've got a sum and difference. So I square the first term, 81x squared, keep the minus, square the second term, 36, and I'm done. So let's do this one, 4x plus 5, 4x minus 5. So 4x squared is 4x to the second power is 4x squared. Keep the minus, 5 squared is 25. See how simple this is? It really is worth your time to learn this. So here again we have a sum and difference. So the square the first, 9x squared, keep the minus, square the second. Square the first. X squared to the second power is x to the fourth. Keep the minus, 6y squared is 36y squared. Let's do this one with the variables down here. So again, x squared times x squared is x to the fourth. Keep the minus. And then we've got y cubed times y cubed. So that's y to the sixth. Remember, we're multiplying, so we add the exponents. And that's really all there is to it. So we just had three things really that we had to focus on in here. We had the FOIL, which many of you are probably familiar with. We had the squares. And then we had this one, which was the sum and difference. It's worth your time to work on these.